Hello there and welcome to Shuttlebay 4. This time we're talking about the Deep Space Nine episode, The Ascent. Now this episode has two distinct plot lines. Here we'll be looking at the part of the episode that takes place on Deep Space Nine, and in a separate video we'll discuss the other plot line, which takes place on a mountain. There's also some chat about Aaron Eisenberg and how we use Star Trek to help cope with stress.
Best way to summarise this, I've got Odo and Quark go on a road trip and crash land on a planet. Meanwhile, there's trouble in paradise when Jake and Nog move in together. This episode, it's fairly unique because often you have like an A plot and a B plot, but it's pretty much a 50-50 split this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, the Quark Odo thing is clearly the bigger plot, but the Jake Nog subplot it's nearly as big. The Jake and Nog bit, there's not a lot of action, but a lot happens still, if that makes sense. So Jake and Nog, I've got here, Jake's moving out, and my main comment here is, he was a kid 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? It sounds daft, but watching Jake, especially the way we watch it for Shuttlebay 4, we're picking episodes here, there, and everywhere. Although we tend not to watch too much of the earlier DS9, to be honest. It's really bizarre seeing him as a kid, a young kid, and then all of a sudden he's a young man and he's moving out and he's got a girlfriend. Well, he hasn't at this point, I don't think, but he does end up with a girlfriend who's a double girl and everything. And I was thinking that Jake is kind of the anti-Wesley Crusher, because whereas when Wesley Crusher was the boy wonder, he was old, like teary-eyed over Starfleet and everything. Jake isn't. He's not that bothered about Starfleet. He wants to do something different to his dad, and he's just a regular kid. And I really do like that about Jake. Nog is teary-eyed for Starfleet, though, but whereas Jake comes from a Starfleet background, it's interesting for Nog because he obviously comes from pretty much the opposite of a Starfleet background. He comes from a background where there's probably a lot of disappointment that he wants to go into Starfleet. It's probably seen as a bit of an odd thing to do. And I was thinking, do you think that within this episode, Nog kind of reflects like some sort of like discrimination in the workplace to an extent, for ethnic minorities and for women? Because I've often heard it said, and I say heard it said because the truth is I'm not an ethnic minority. Oh, you probably see I'm practically transparent, and I'm also not female. But I've often heard it said that if you are in a minority group, that you have to work harder than everyone else just to get the same level of recognition. And you can kind of see that with Nog is trying almost too hard because he realizes he's going to have to, he's really going to have to go for it. Because he's not just representing himself, he's representing Ferengis in Starfleet. He's the first one to do it. And there is a lot of weight on his shoulders there. But that's not really for this episode, I guess.
No, it is. No, that's a massive point to make, and it is for this episode. I made a note on that. So there's a lot of things at work in a workplace. There's race, there's gender, there's class. Class still plays a very big part in our culture in Britain, and I suppose Nog is proper working class, if that makes sense. He doesn't seem to be from this elite or this natural Starfleet thing. And the fact that he's really doing it and he's doing it well, I think is a testament to the day and age that they're trying to portray. Do you know what I mean? That's a good point you brought up there, Dan, and it really matters.
Thank you very much. But one comment I've got, and it's quite a quick one, is the fact that Nog and Jake are two really well-developed characters. In fact, Quark and Odo are as well, to be honest. And then I thought, well, actually, this is where DS9 does what TNG just couldn't or wouldn't or just didn't do. In TNG, I've said it before, the only two characters that really got good character development were Picard and Data. They got really good character development from the beginning to the end, particularly Data, and a lot of the other characters didn't. Or if they did, it's more to do with the fact that it just went on for 7 long seasons, and it just happens to pick up the odd episode. Whereas with Deep Space Nine, every single character gets some really good development, not just because they have, say, a Bashir episode or a Jake episode, but just throughout the entire series, just get little insights into the people that they are, and they are different at the end of the season than they are at the beginning, particularly Dax. That was a little joke. Jake and Benjamin Sisko, I love their relationship. I always criticize Sisko. Well, rather, I criticize, his name's going out my head, Avery Brooks, because I didn't really like his acting. I found it a bit stilted, and I found him difficult to watch.
Sauteed. Rolloped. Fricasseed. Fine, but not steamed.
But from season 4 onwards, when he does become, version 2.0, it's brilliant. But it's particularly good when he's with Jake. And there's a thing he does in this episode where he's talking to Jake, and there's no way. Well, I don't know this for certain, right? So maybe it was, but I very much doubt that this was scripted. But when he's talking to Jake, he'll kind of like put his hand on his shoulder, and he kind of like, he touches him and he gives him a hug, he gives him a little kiss on the side of the head or whatever. All these little really, really natural physical interactions that you have with your kids that would be difficult to script. So what I want you to do now is I want you to just put your hand on his head, then I want you, it just wouldn't come across as natural. And it just feels as though they just did it in the moment. And in interviews with Cyril Lofton, I've heard him say that Avery Brooks was really like a father character to him, and there was this almost paternal, bond between the two, and it really, really, really comes across. If somebody were to say to me, "These are actually father and son in real life," I would believe
you could believe it. You could.
It's absolutely believable. And
I think Avery Brooks, because he was young when he started, wasn't he? So he took him aside and spent actual time with him, separate to just, this is our job. It was almost like, well, actually, we're going to be spending a lot of time together. So formed that bond on purpose with him. But luckily, I think because Jake, again, Sirach was young, you're going to be looking up and doing whatever this like older actor is telling you. But also they formed that bond themselves as well. Because like you said, Sirach talks about him as a dad almost, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was watching the documentary last night. The DS9 documentary, he did mention about how every the Lakers game as well. He introduced you to Magic Johnson and told him, "This is my son." He's introduced his own son.
Right, okay, yeah.
And Cheryl has his own son as well. "This is my son." They're both my sons. So a very close relationship outside of work as well, which took him, which is wonderful to see on screen as well.
Yeah.
I love Sisko as a dad to Jake. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
So do I. And I think it's one of the things that makes him, him a great character. But anyway, I just wanted to mention the fact that those little interactions were just absolutely brilliant. So it just reminds me of like when I'm with my kids, and whenever they come in from school, I kind of give them a hug and I always give them a little kiss on the side of the head, that sort of thing. There's these little moments that I thought were really quite touching. And also, another touching moment as well was when Quark gives Nog a gift, kind of like a moving out gift, and it's a tray of root beer.
Yeah.
Now, this wouldn't have really meant anything to me if it weren't for the fact that very recently we watched Way of the Warrior, where they have that amazing conversation about root beer, where it's kind of analogous to Starfleet. I can't remember the quote, but it says something like it's sweet, it's cloying, but eventually you start to like it. And to me, the root beer was kind of symbolic of that, really. I don't know whether it was aimed that way deliberately or not, but I
liked it even more because Quark brought that into the room before Nog had even arrived, wasn't it? So Quark was already kind of preparing this for him when he arrived. So it just showed Quark has got a little bit of a heart somewhere.
Root beer? His favorite.
Well, you think Quark's got a little bit of a heart. I'm not going to mention the Quark and Odo stuff because we'll save that for after we've discussed this. But I think he's got quite a big heart as Quark, and I think Armin Shimmerman is amazing in this episode. But
Quark is so multi-layered. You're right, and it's even past this episode. Brilliant. When Quark is in any dire trouble or anything, he just can do what is necessary, so he can show bravery and he can show guile and he can everything, whatever you need, because he's a survivor. That's what he is.
But one of my kids now is at the age where they are moving out. Olivia, she's at university and everything. So it was quite interesting watching this where Jake's moving out, because I kind of had that last year and I absolutely hated it. I found it really upsetting. So it's really, I'm watching it now with different eyes. And I love the fact that he moves in with Nog, and you get this weird relationship where Nog is the one who's really studying really hard. Like I said, too hard, to be honest, to the point where he's putting in so much effort. It's like, right, we need to be, I think he says it's lights out at 10. We need to be up at 4:30 to get to the gym. And Jake, to be honest, I'd probably be on Jake's side here. It's like, fuck off. I'm not doing that.
Lights out at 2200. I haven't gone to bed that early since I was 12.
And Jake's a bit of a slob, and Nog is really tidy. And I love it because it kind of breaks down those stereotypes you have of Ferengi, of being a bit savage and a bit, backwards almost. Whereas with this, it's Nog who's the really hardworking, progressive one, and Jake's, the slob. And I loved watching their relationship. I kind of loved it getting strained, and I loved it when at the end they kind of compromise. And I'm sure I won't be the only only one who refers to them as a bit of like an old married couple, and they're not the only ones. Quark and Odo have that kind of, that thing going on as well. But I really, really enjoyed watching them two grow up through Deep Space Nine. They've moved in together, and I like the fact that instead of it being all, happiness and rainbows and fantastic, there is some friction there because it's more growing up.
It's true as well, though. It's true.
Like
I've lived with people that I considered friends before I lived with them, and because you only know each other as friends outside, and then when you live with each other, it's dramatically different, and you don't get on. And so it was actually really true to life. That your expectations are never met when you move in with somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People do grow. People change over time. They find things that interest them. They find new paths in life, and they do diverge from friends as well. But people just naturally split and go in different directions. And I think this episode, I don't know if it's the B plot is Jake and Nog. It might be the father and son thing, the empty nest.
Yeah, maybe
syndrome.
so. Yeah.
Because that empty nest thing comes through with it's a comic moment, but Rom sits down with Sisko in the Replimat with this little vial of blood, and he's like, "Is this my son? Is it? Is this what he is now?"
It's been 8 hours. It's been 8 hours.
Yeah. Because I think he's a changeling, and I think that Jake and Nog kind of they are separating a little bit. And I think they come back together full circle at the end, where he's like, "Do you know what? Let's have a game of Dom Job. I'll let you break." And therein lies the friendship, and they still have that common ground and that friendship. But it is obvious to both of them that they are now becoming different people.
Exactly. And having to, I think that's where a friendship, if it's going to last, it gets past that. But if it isn't, then you do diverge separately. You know what I mean?
And in a fundamental way as well, because Nog was the tearaway, the scallywag, the wheeler dealer, stealing stem bolts and stuff out of his.
He was a bad influence. If you remember, Ben didn't want. I called him Ben now, like we're mates. Oh, Ben Sisko. He didn't want his son. He didn't want him associating with Nog.
No.
But again, that was from a racial thing, and he still had that. He's a Ferengi and couldn't look past that, wasn't it? So again, it was interesting because even very early on, it was Jake kind of forcing Sisko to get over that. Yeah. Because we are going to be friends, no matter what you say.
I think one of the very first scenes of Deep Space Nine was Nog getting arrested. No?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
All right, just stand where you are.
Now Nog is the positive influence.
He is.
Which is testament to that character arc and where they've got to, and also Sisko with Nog, when Nog goes into his office, he had that kind of like paternal thing with Nog as well, where he's looking after him.
I got that.
And I love that warmth because it really, really does come through. I love that.
Some really good scenes actually in this episode. Really individual scenes between two characters. Yeah.
Well, the only other thing I've got to say about those is I love the cadets uniforms. I love the big pockets. That's because you don't see that in a Star Trek uniform. Though, apart from in Enterprise, because John Joe said before actually that what they were in Enterprise is probably what you would wear as an engineer, And I did really like those big deep pockets. I thought, there you go, you can tell they're engineers.
And I like the way Starfleet do that Ferengi thing around the back of the head. That they've invented a Starfleet version of something that's its cultural dress. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And they haven't said, well, this is the uniform, wear it or don't wear it. They've said, right, okay, this is a Ferengi here. What do they wear? Well, they wear that thing. We'll do it to match. I dig that. I really, really like that.
Especially as he's the first Ferengi. It is a gesture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good point. I like that too, yeah.
Yeah, I completely missed that point, but you're absolutely right. They've embraced that Ferengi culture. It's a big gesture.
You know where that actually comes from, don't you?
Well, yeah, because for the makeup, it's the
because they didn't always cover.
I think it works though.
Yeah, it does. It looks really good. It does look really good. John Joe, just to let you know, what we're doing is instead of doing the whole episode, we're kind of going to break it up. So we're just talking about the what you might consider the B plot. The Jake, Nog, Sisko kind of thing, and then we'll talk about the Odo and Quark part of the episode.
Well done for remembering all their names. Well done.
It's using every ounce of brain power to do it. But that's it. Anybody else want to talk about Nog and Jake?
I also like the scene when Cadet Nog comes in to see Sisko at the beginning, and he says to Sisko, "Don't worry, sir, I'll take care of him for you." You know what I mean?
I picked up on that as well.
Don't worry, sir. I'll look after him for you.
That was really funny because Sisko was like, "You inspire me with confidence, Cadet."
You inspire me with confidence, Cadet.
And it was so sarcastic, but again, it was an amazing scene. So I know you don't like Avery Brooks's acting, but in this episode, it was kind of every scene he had individually with a character, because he had quite a few of them. He had one with Nog, one with Ron, one with Jake. I thought it was really touching, every one of them, and he had a kind of, I don't know, it was almost like, from Sisko's perspective, he had like a knowledge already. Everything was just, I know what's going on. It's really fine.
From this point onwards, I do like it. And if I'd have only ever seen Deep Space Nine from season 4 onwards, I probably would rank Sisko much higher as on the captain's list, because I think when he's on form, like in this episode, it is untouchable. I think is absolutely fantastic. It's those little nuanced moments, particularly the way he interacts with other people, that a lot of other people just don't really seem to be able to do, but he does.
The whole agony of Sisko, of Jake leaving, obviously, me and dads can relate to that. Obviously, that a kid's going to leave home. It's like, it's hard to take. So my daughter's going to go to university in September this year, so I'm going to be facing that myself. Obviously, Dad's already facing it. So, and the way Jake took the mick out of him, that I don't have a son. Wait till your son leaves home, and Jake said, I don't have a son. So it's like Jake was making a laugh of it, but that was a nice scene.
I don't have a son.
I also liked the way. Because it's such a long way. The story arc of Nog, for example, I love the way they had that close friendship right from since they met, really. Because Sisko was against that friendship at the beginning. Obviously, he was well against it. And then seeing Jake teach Nog how to read in that scene, when he looked at the background, in the early season, and Sisko saw how lovely Jake is to Nog. It's a really good friendship, and I think it's a wonderful friendship they got. And also, the way Nog is now, as a Starfleet cadet, is really strict in his ways. Like, he works out, he's got his routine, he's studying, wants to get his muscles as well, wants to look all fit and everything. It was, like, brilliant.
Muscles, Jake! Those things that are supposed to go between your bones and your skin?
And Jake is like you said, he's like a bit of a slob in him. Like, leaves everything lying around, just a writer. He has writer's blocks, so he just plays dumb jobs on his pad instead, It's like very two different people, but they're still great friends, So I love the way that Sisko and Nog got them together in the end, basically, Sisko and
Rom, yeah.
Rom, yeah. My mind got back to Rom, yeah. And that scene where he says, like, is he a changeling? Oh, that scene with the blood.
That was so funny. That was so funny. I didn't remember that scene. I've seen this episode loads, but I forgot that scene, and it is so funny. And again, it's just because Max playing him is so funny as the character.
It's been 8 hours. So far, so good.
I love Rob. Rob is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I watched it today. I laughed out loud watching it.
I did as well. I did. That's why I had to write it down, because there was a few scenes that made me laugh out loud, and I was like, "Oh, that's gold." You know what I mean?
And obviously, there's sister getting them together at the end, so they're working out together. I'm your dad, and I'm your commanding officer. Sort it out. So
yeah, exactly. Word for word is, I'm the commander of this station, and I'm your father, and what I say goes.
Yeah, it's the ultimate power, and he's got the ultimate power over both of them.
yeah.
And I'm your captain, and I'm your father, and what I say goes. Good day, gentlemen.
Yeah.
He just walks out. Sort it out.
The theme of this episode really is friendship.
Yeah,
almost grudging friendship. I think there was. With the Jake and Nog, they did it differently, because it was learning to take your friendship in a new direction.
Yeah.
And the others was almost proving we are friends.
Yeah, and it's friendship under strain. It's friendship that's being tested. And I've already touched on the fact that I think Rom and Ben Sisko are dealing with the empty nest syndrome. And they're kind of striking up a bit of a rapport, a bit of a friendship as well. Even though Rom's down here, like, trainee junior technician and station commander, it's like,
there's a reason why Rom could sit with him in the replimat, for instance, and have a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's like, I don't even know this boy, and Sisko and Rom are having that banter, as you say, that only fathers can understand. I think the Jake and Nog thing, as it's becoming strained. I mean, so Nog turns up here, and he's like Captain Boot Camp, isn't he? He's like, yes, sir, no, sir.
Yeah,
Feedback's full, sir.
Cadet Nog, reported for duty, sir.
And he comes in, and when he sits down, actually, it's like that at the table.
Yeah,
it's
yes,
like,
it's really noticeable in this one. Yeah,
and and I thought, as a power play, that no one sits higher than the commander on DS9, and that's a Cardassian thing. You would expect Jake to be in Nog's shoes, and you would expect Nog to be in Jake's shoes. Do you know what I mean by that? You would expect Jake to follow in his father's footsteps. He's a great captain. He's an emissary of the prophets. He's on the front line. He's a respected officer. You would expect Jake to really gravitate towards that and want a piece of that for himself. But he's completely not interested in He's a Federation citizen, and he's using that freedom. I want to be a writer. And I suppose if you've got that militaristic mind and that respect for the forces type thing, you would think that is a bit of a cop-out. But if you lived in the Federation and it really didn't matter what you did, you could do whatever you wanted. You could be a writer. You could be a bum, really. I mean, if you wanted to.
Bum. Bum.
Yeah.
And you see that situation from Nog coming through in his interaction with Jake. And he is like, I thought it was quite funny, actually. He said, lights out at 2200 and we're up at 0430 for that is my life. In fact, I wake up earlier than that. Everyone that was watching that's like, yeah, fuck that. That's what I do. I really like Nog's adjustable dumbbells, where he's got one set of dumbbells, and I don't know if he can play with a gravitational setting on it and go, right, let's go. I wasn't too impressed with the size of his biceps, to be honest, but he's giving it a go. Maybe that's a Ferengi physiology. But he's just standing there going, this place is a wreck. You don't clean up after yourself. You don't do this. You don't do that. We need to do this. You're lazy. And Jake's just like, I don't care, man. Just take. I don't. And this nagging thing.
If you've ever stayed in a hotel room with me, that's the exact example you could use.
I can understand that you would probably put that strain on the friendship there, Brett. You're just sitting there playing computerized Domjot.
Well, why do you think Dan isn't cheering in Blackpool this year?
Yeah. I don't know what is the A story and the B story here, because we start off with Sisko and Jake, and he's moving out.
You're right, actually. From the episode, what I was shocked at was I thought the Odo and Cork story was a lot longer. I thought there was a lot more to it, from what I remember, but they split it really evenly, actually.
They do, yeah. And it was kind of hard making notes. I think I naturally did what you probably did, Dan, and I started writing notes, and then I was shuffling through, and I was doing the A story and the B story quite differently, and there is no connection between those stories really in this episode.
No, there isn't directly, apart from both storylines have a core of friendship, like you mentioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The themes have,
the theme of the episode is woven throughout. It's in the fabric of the episode, but the two stories don't really connect at all. I think it's quite poignant. If you've ever drifted from friends, or you've ever looked at someone who's made a massive, I think Jake is Jake pretty much through the series. But I think Nog really makes a difference. And in that first episode, Emissary, when he gets busted, he's doing that Ferengi thing, that creature stance and like hissing and growling and stuff like that. And now we see him upstanding, boot camp ready, up at 0430, clean living, Starfleet cadet. It's a coming of age type thing. It's a very, very small snippet of that coming of age type thing, moving out, branching out on your own, doing your own thing, having that freedom. And where do you go with your friends? Do you take them with you, or do you find new friends? How does that work out? And I think this is quite a nice way of doing that. And the interactions between the two, you can tell those two actors really get on as well.
When they were acting together on DS9, Aaron Eisenberg, this is a true story, Aaron told me this himself, was walking down the corridor out of makeup, out of costume, let on to Sirok, and Sirok went, "Who are you?"
Oh,
and
my God, really?
Close your eyes and listen to the voice. He did not know, because he's an adult. He was short, but he's an adult. And when he was acting against Nog, because obviously you can't share a dressing room with Aaron.
Yeah.
He's a child actor. So when they were passing in the corridor and he let onto him, he was like, "You all right, mate?" And he was like, "Who are you?"
He had something wrong with his kidneys, didn't he?
He was born with
one kidney, and it kind of, he didn't grow.
It deteriorated. No, he didn't grow properly because of
Yeah.
it. And then when he deteriorated as a teenager, that's why it stunted his growth. When it failed, he got his first transplant then.
Right.
And he was a teenager.
He was like a perpetual teenager, wasn't he?
Well, we and Aaron used to be, I mean, like really good friends. We talk about football, we talk about Star Trek, but we'd also talk about CKD. And I mean, like friends on Facebook, friends on Twitter. We talk to each other at conventions and stuff. He knew me by name. Even when he met me in my face for the first time, he knew me by name. Do you know what I mean? He remembered me. It was like, oh my God, you've never met me yet. You know me because of these conversations we've been having for years on social media. We didn't hang out together outside of
makeup,
filming and makeup. No, they didn't. Because Sirach for ages didn't didn't recognize him straight off. And then when he went, do you not recognize my voice? It's me. It's Nog. And he was like, I thought you was the kid. And he went, no, I'm just
I suppose really you can understand how they didn't really mix outside of work, because when I'm going to say Jake, but when Sirach was a kid and Aaron Eisenberg was an adult, it would have been a bit weird. It's only once you get a bit older, it makes no difference if one of you is 10 years older than the other. But when you are a kid, that you are.
Yeah, because if Aaron was magnified. Like 30, it would have been double his age at the time, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The way that this opened, there was no Starfleet opening to this episode. We go straight into the what is supposed to be the B plot. Yeah. And we're not talking about Dominion Wars. We're not talking about anything. And even the Changeling reference is just a comic device, actually.
So with Deep Space Nine, it's because it's got all them layers. So I've rewatched TNG so many times, and some episodes so many times. You just know it, and there isn't any more depth to it. It is just that. But with Deep Space Nine, you've got references that you might have missed, like one word, Dominion, and it's got a reference to something. And I think you can see more and more from episodes because of the layers it's got with the characters in DS9.
And we go straight into the father and son thing, and the moving out and the empty nest thing, and the timing's brilliant. The timing and the exchange between the characters. And another thing I like about this episode, and it's in every arc of the story, is you pretty much got two people on the screen all the way through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got Sisko and Rom, Sisko and Jake and Nog, Odo, Quark. That's it.
They kind of do it all the way, actually. That's interesting, because I didn't pick up if they went to the shop, because you've got Rom and O'Brien. You've got Rom and Sisko. Sorry, not Nog O'Brien, Nog Sisko.
Yeah.
Every one of them has just individual.
When he's done in the office, Nog walks out, and then there's a quick exchange with our visitor. There's a quick exchange with Kira, and she looks so pregnant, man. She looks big. She's really she's blooming. You can see it in her face and the dress she's wearing, and he's like, and again, it's just those two characters. And the way this has been written and done, I think that was quite clever, because it is friendship all the way, and even like the distinction between rank and how that kind of blurs when you know someone a long time, you've worked with them a long time. Yes, there's a senior person, but it's easy to see that O'Brien gets on with Nog quite well, and he's got a lot of respect for that lad. Do you know what I mean? And I like the way that it's a little tiny arc for this episode in a bigger arc, and they close it out between Jake and Nog really, really well at the end. Do you know what I mean? That close, proper handshake. It's not a handshake. It's a brotherly grip, that one.
You son of a bitch.
And it's nice, and you're like, I'm glad I've got that warm feeling. I'm glad they did that. I'm glad they sorted that out, because I was getting a bit like, oh no, don't fall out. And then at the end you're like, the boys are back in town. Good.
Dee, can I ask you a question? And you don't have to answer it, because I know it's not an easy question to answer, especially when somebody puts you on the spot. But obviously, when Aaron Eisenberg passed away, I know obviously everybody was obviously upset by it, but because you obviously had a closer personal relationship with him, and I'm guessing because of I'm not saying you're like kidney brothers, kidney twins, but you did have some things in common, health wise, I suppose, to that extent. It must have been doubly hard for you because it did come out of nowhere, didn't it? It was a big shock.
Yeah,
I think
he helped me through it because he helped me understand terminology, treatments, what I needed to get my head around.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He helped me with a lot of that, a hell of a lot of that.
Yeah.
So obviously when he went, I was like, I've got no one now to talk to about it.
Yeah.
He helped me. He was my one friend that helped me deal with it all. And the dialysis started happening. It was just a case of, where are you when I need you?
Yeah. Because he was... I don't know a lot about him, and I'm not going to pretend I do, right? And I didn't have a close personal relationship with him. And to be honest, everything I kind of know about him was from after he passed away when I read about him. But I understand that obviously it's not like he had some huge glittering acting career after Deep Space Nine. And Deep Space Nine itself, it's not like that's going to set you up for life. You know, you might have the convention circuit and that, but it did. Am I right in saying it? Was it like Little League Baseball? Is it they have in America? He was involved in
football.
Was it football?
Soccer.
I knew he was involved in... Yeah, soccer. Oh, there you go.
Soccer.
You said you talked about football with him, yeah.
He was on the training field when he collapsed.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he used to I know he used to do like charity collections, like him and his wife, I think, to raise funds for like football kit and things like that, you know, for the kids. And I know I get the impression he was a big community player, you know. So I think every life is a loss, but I mean, it does feel like it was a genuine big loss for a lot of people. Was he quite pally with a lot of, you know, people, you know, fans and that?
All the fans, he took the time to get to know. All the fans by name. He took the time to get to know him at conventions. He took the time to talk to him and everything. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't even having a photograph or an autograph. He was just sat behind his desk, and I was just talking to him and Melissa.
Yeah.
At this little con that we went to.
There's two types of Star Trek actor, isn't there? There's the actor that embraces the fandom and that loves the crack. And there's the actor.
It was like that with everybody. It wasn't just me. Yeah. It wasn't just because we had all these things in common. He was like that with everybody across the board. It's just that we had a lot of things to talk about: football, CKD, Star Trek. Do you know what I mean? There was loads of topics we had in common.
And we miss him.
But to tell you the truth, guys, normally if we've got an episode with Nog in, Dee won't watch it.
I did today. I did really well today.
Yeah.
It's still how long?
It's either 5 years this year.
Yeah.
But normally, if I put if a Deep Space Nine's on and I whack it on and Nog's on, she'll leave the room because it's too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still not watched What We Left Behind because it got to one bit and that was it. I'm gone. I couldn't breathe because I was that upset.
I don't want to talk it in like a really shallow, crass way, but because obviously the death of somebody is much bigger than, it's a shame we won't see them in whatever. But what he brought to that character, Nog, was so amazing. Like we said, you know, it's the character that went through so much. He saw him develop so much. And I say we saw him grow up. Obviously, Aaron Eisenberg, the actor, wasn't a child, but Nog was a child. And we saw that character grow up. And it just feels as though it would have been so great to see that character in another series. I know we maybe haven't had other series after it as such, but you know, we've got Lower Decks, and you never know what the series are going to be. And it would be great, you know, to have him in there.
First go round. So when this was originally aired, I was 13. It was maybe 2 or 3 years before I was doing the watch through.
Yeah.
So maybe 15. So I was the age of Jake and Nog's character. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was their age coming through. And what you said was quite poignant. I never really connected with the Wesley Crusher character at all. I mean, he was all American and he was a genius and this, that, and the other. But I did connect with them too, because that would have been me, legs dangling off the top of the promenade thing, just watching the world go by, probably nicking the occasional thing with a monster and you know, getting into trouble, getting into mischief on the space station. And there's an episode where they try and get into business and start, you know, exchanging stent bolts for yamak sauce and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was that age and I was growing up with them guys. Do you know what I mean? For me, the trio of Worf, Data, LaForge, you know, the Lower Deckers and that was my crew. They were my crew growing up. But I grew up with these guys as well. Do you know what I mean? It is quite strange doing a watch through, being the age I am now, and getting a little bit more out of the B story. In as much as it's not just a friendship thing, I got that kids leaving the nest, that father-son relationship that's explored in both characters.
Yeah, because the whole episode could have been that. Because in my mind, I'm thinking about this episode, I was thinking, oh yeah, it's the one with Quark and Odo on the mountain and blah 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 blah. It's called Descent because of that. But when I'm watching it, I'm like, that was great. But for me, the more compelling story was this one. And I kind of forgot that this happened. I genuinely kind of forgot about this. And Brush was on about the fact. I think this Brush who said he forgot about the bit with the blood, that little moment. And when I saw that, I'm thinking, have I missed this?
Well,
Has
when
this been
the
edited out in the past? Honestly, I can't even remember that.
When the episode started, it is obvious what the story is, and you remember it. But I didn't remember this was part of the Ascent.
Yeah.
Like all of us, because it is called the Ascent, like you say. So that's exactly what we remember. This is Quark and Odo on the mountain, and it felt like it should have been like most half an hour of that, and there was this little other story going on at the side of it. But as soon as it started, you remembered what it was going to be. That's that B story, A story. And it is a 50-50 split, I guess, isn't it?
And it's a 50-50 thing all the way through. Like I said, there's usually two people on camera. It's got that, you know what I mean by buddy cop movie? Do you know what I mean by that genre?
Yeah.
It's got that all the way through. And like you said, with the old married couple, like these people have known each other for years, and they're still in that place. And they're bickering and they're arguing and I can't stand you, but they love each other really, I love that.
It does remind you of a buddy movie, and I watched Tango and Cash the other night. I love Tango and Cash.
Well, nobody's mentioned it, but did you not notice that it was a mirror arc? Like it was relationship starts off with the Quark and Odo, Jake and Nog, and then as the episodes, it's just their relationships breaking down, their relationships breaking down.
Yeah,
they're trying to bond together. They're trying not to repair it. You know what I mean? There's no one to intervene, obviously, between them two. It's just the speech that Odo gives. Well, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And Rom's going to get the bar, and my nephew's going to get corrupted by it. Right, I'll bloody take this transmitter up there if it kills me, kind of thing. And it took Sisko and Rom to intervene with these two. But it's the same sort of mirror arc, trying to repair the relationship just to get things moving forward and not falling out with one another. And obviously at the end, when those two say, do you know everything I said on the planet? Well, I meant it. But they both end up laughing about it. It's the same handshake that Jake and Nog have in the room when they compromise. You know what I mean? It just feels like both relationships are following the same story arc in the same parallel emotional trajectory.
It's a good. I like this one. As soon as you said it, I did remember the Nog Jake story because I still remember this one because DS9's my favourite, guys. It always has been. I liked Oz. I liked Enterprise. Is Al there? Is Al not here? Yeah. I liked Enterprise. I won't say that if Al's on. I liked them all. I liked Discovery, but DS9's really.
Yeah,
I do like DS9.
Yeah, even when the music starts and we get the new music and the new opening sequence, like Brush, I didn't skip the opening sequence. I watched it, and you've got that Nebula class ship attached to the thing, and I was like, I could have really done with a bit of DS9 this week, actually. And I don't know if I'd have got that from TNG, not this week, because sometimes it's a bit stale, a bit dry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we watched the Ascent today, and then Dave fell asleep, and I carried him watching DS9.
Yeah,
and that's a really good one after. Yeah,
that's really good.
What's the one after it?
That's a great episode after it.
Raptor,
And then afterwards, Dave was watching TNG, and I'm just sat here going, whatever.
You know what? One of the notes I made, and I wasn't even sure whether to mention it or not, but Patches has just said something, and Jeff's kind of alluded to it. One thing I wasn't expecting with this episode, when I first started watching it, when the music kicked in, I actually felt quite emotional in a way that I wasn't expecting, and it's because I know in the past we've talked about Star Trek and how we got into it and all that, and for quite a few years I just didn't watch it at all. And when I got back into it, and it felt, I didn't realise it, but I think psychologically I actually needed it. It was when I split up from my ex and I'm living at my mum and dad's house. And when I've got the kids, we were all sharing a room. So I've got me, my 3 kids, we're all sharing a double bed together, right? And it wasn't the easiest of times. And I used to go to bed really early because they were only little. They were like, like 4, 5, 6, or whatever.
Little.
Yeah, so I used to go to bed really early, so I weren't disturbing them. And then as soon as I used to put something on TV, we'd fall asleep together. And then when they went to sleep, I watched Deep Space Nine, because I never finished it first time round, and I started it from scratch. That I'm going to, watch through all this, and it's kind of a magic moment for me for that. Because although it was really tough at the time, I love the fact that we were all just together, and it's something that just happens so rarely, especially now that they're older. And I must admit, I did start to get a bit, upset when that music came in, because I just associate it with that time so much.
Yeah,
and it was such a weird time. And although it's not Star Trek, I do remember, because one of my kids really got in Star Wars. I remember watching the screen when it was revealed that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and this little magic moments like that. Sadly, they didn't really get into Star Trek, but
I get that because of you lot, which is nice. I sit down. Do you know what? I can't watch Star Trek anymore.
Yeah.
It's no longer just my thing. Do you know what I mean? It's no longer just me in my own little bubble that's this Trekkie. Every time I'm watching Star Trek, I'm watching it with you guys now, and I'm like, I know what Dan's going to say about that. I know Jed digs this. I know Brush has got a fact on that. John Joe's probably going to have some sort of engineering fact about that. Like, you wouldn't do that with a torpedo and all of this kind of stuff. That's how I watch Star Trek now, through this lens of Shuttlebay 4.
Yeah.
And it is emotional.
It's therapy, isn't it? It is. It's I genuinely think it's a really big point from depression.
I think we can all agree that it's been therapy for us.
Yeah.
So I was going to say then, so it's a really good point, Dan, because everyone's got moments like that in their life. Is everybody's go-to to put Star Trek on? Because certainly in times where I've gone,
when I'm feeling down or low, or definitely, absolutely, is find an episode.
Yeah. Star Trek is the old friend for me.
When I feel down, I watch Take Me to the Holosuite or Tink and Tell a Dr. Spy from Voyager. Those are 2 episodes that gave me up.
You know what? I tend to find, like, when I've said this before, when I have my lunch at work, I sit in the car, I have a vape, I eat my lunch, and I watch Star Trek. And that's my little 1 hour respite in the middle of the day. And you just stop, you watch an episode, and you just decompress, and then you're ready to go back for the afternoon.
This Shuttlebay 4 is like a medicine regime for me. I wouldn't necessarily take my medicine, my weekly dose of Star Trek, unless I had to come on here and cogently talk about the episode. So it forces me to watch something that I love doing, and it's got me right back into it majorly.
Well, yeah, especially when you get busy. Everyone gets busy with life, don't they? And it just sort of fades into the background. And you're like, sometimes, especially the ones I'm not a particular big fan of, I sit down and go, I can't be arsed watching this. And I put it on, and I'm like, shall I just watch the next one as well? Like, even the ones that I don't particularly like, everybody likes, don't they? Because they remind you of those bad and good times. Like, I remember just after having the little one, and it's like fucking God knows what time in the morning, and you're like, it's like fast asleep on you. And like I always had Star Trek on in the background. Next Generation we watch through as it happens, but it's really cute now because she's obviously remembered that, because when I put it on now, it came on earlier, and she went Dada Dada and like pointed to it, and I was like, oh, nice, that's my girl. That's my girl.
Yes, that's really.
So weirdly, like just on top of what we've been saying, weirdly, I've used it as a barometer as well for myself in the past. So if I'm watching loads of Trek all the time, and then I go a long period without feeling the need to watch it, you know what I mean? Not just it's on telly and I usually need to choose to watch it because it's on a streaming service or a DVD I've got. And if I've gone a very long period of time without feeling the need to watch it, in my head, silly barometer that I've got, I'm like, oh, you're doing well, and you're doing well. You haven't felt the need that you need to go back to that. Shuttlebay 4 offers a different experience almost for me, because we're doing it on a slightly different perspective. And like I'm now watching this episode from this perspective to give you any kind of critique or find some facts about it. I find I'm watching them differently. So it's not like that's the need I'm having to go watch Star Trek. This is now, well, it's homework, isn't it? Basically, it is homework for us all.
Yeah.
I don't need an excuse to watch Star Trek. I just watch Star Trek.
It's on every day nowadays.
To be fair, it is on in my house nearly every day, and that's been true since I was a teenager as well.
Jed had it on in the background a minute ago. I saw.
Yeah, it was.
No, that was on in the background. We just stick it on. We stick it. We cut. We'll go off.
Flicking through, and if Star Trek's on any of the channels, that's the channel that goes on. It'd be Voyager. I mean, the Voyager ones, I caught 10 minutes of one before, thought, oh, this looks like a good one, and then it ended.
I thought you were going to say, and then the Kazon turned up.
Oh.
I always, I forgot. That is, I don't like Jake, the character of Jake. He annoys me, constantly annoys me, and every time like he gets into trouble, especially in the Dominion War, I'm like, please, this is the episode. This is the episode. He died.
Are you a Wesley Crusher fan?
But that's no.
Okay, well, I'm surprised because you're wrong. Jake's
Is there anyone?
Wesley Crusher fan. Wesley Crusher fan.
No, absolutely never. It starts good in the first one. It to start with, and then just deteriorates in my eyes. But I really like Rom as well, which is fantastic. I think he's, it's all fantastic, which made me laugh, and especially where he's just back from the academy. I'm sure plenty of people have said it, but that's just like people in real life as well. They go one way or the other, especially when they've gone through some sort of basic training or militarization. They go either that way or they go, I fucking hate this. Where's the pub?
Okay, so again, most of you have said a lot of it. I said again, I forgot this was the B story until the opening scene. And then it was like, okay, this is the one where they move in together. But again, as soon as I remembered this is when they move in together, I forgot that opening scene. And it is, we've both mentioned, it's super touching, it's well acted, and it is an amazing opening to kind of the story. When you see Nog come back from the academy, immediate difference again, and we've all said, he's this military officer all of a sudden. And I think what they've done with both Jake and Nog in this is make them extra that for each other, so Nog has come back super military, but also Jake has always been a bit of a layabout, if you're honest, throughout the station. He's never really had nothing to do, but that's emphasized as well in this episode. So, for instance, he's got his own place, and so this is exactly what Jake would do when he gets his own place. It's like, don't have to do nothing, I haven't got a dad to tell me what to do anymore. Nog obviously fully embraces Starfleet, and so you see he's matured a lot. And then when you see opposite Jake, you see immediately, well, you haven't matured at all, actually. And from both those sides of those different characters, both of you are dicks. And then they try and force those two opposites to live together. Sisko talking to Nog, oh yeah, we said that because Rashid said it, but it was really funny. That they a little conversation when it's almost like Nog saying, oh, don't worry, I'll look after your son. And he's like, yeah, you inspire confidence in me, cadet. And it was done with such sarcasm. It's a brilliant scene. I love his acting in that because it kind of lingers on him and his eyes.
How'd it go? I inspire him.
The good thing is, though, because Rom doesn't get the sarcasm, so
no, not at all. Yeah, because he's really proud, and then what he does is he rushes out then to Kira to kind of push his chest out and go, yeah, I'm doing it, and she's like, okay, off you go, kid.
Congratulations.
And then we've mentioned, because I liked it and I laughed out loud, so I will mention again, when Rom's chat with Sisko was worth another mention, because it was just so funny from him sitting down awkwardly, knowing, this is the commanding officer and he's always awkward around him anyway, and then trying to broach a conversation with him that was awkward. And that bit when he's, because it's like, I don't know, it's been 8 hours. What do you think? Like 8 hours? He's like, yeah, I think it's okay.
It's when he says he's put me on report for having an untidy toolbox.
Yeah.
He put me on report the other day, said my toolkit was untidy.
And everything he does, he is such a good actor. He does play that character perfectly. So I just think that was kind of genius, that scene. It was just, sorry, I'll just add one thing. It was just that friendship, having to learn that you've changed.
Yeah.
And basically seeing if we can carry on. I think left to each devices, because they were being stubborn, it might not have happened. And interestingly, it often takes an outside, you know, these people who know you better or your relationship better to go, you're being fools. Honestly, you just need to get over that, and then it's going to be back to normal, which it does actually take a lot of the time as well. So there you go.
Cheers, Brush. Come on then, Steve.
Okay. Unpopular opinion. I didn't care for it. Right now, when I sat down, I know. When I sat down to watch this earlier on my lunch break, right, I looked on the Shuttlebay 4 website to find out what episode and series it was, right? Hang on. And as I scrolled down through Netflix and I got to it, I realised that the red line that shows you how much you've watched was about 5 fucking minutes long. This is one of those that I tend to skip, right?
I'm sorry, did you just say skip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I do. I
You're
skipped
killing
the
me, man. You're killing me.
I just think the whole Nog scenario and Jake was just a little bit, oh, shocker, here we go. You know, one lives tidy, one lives slovenly. You know, they're going to be shoved in a room together at the end. It's just a bit,
Yeah, that's
Oh, no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, that's an opinion I share.
just
Absolutely.
a little bit,
Yeah.
it's very cliche. It's done in a billion other programs, and, you know, it's just like, oh, they'll find this peace, this common ground further on. It was almost like it was a filler. I know it's contrary to popular opinion, which is why I left it until the end. But
Jed's had to lie down.
Right. Let's face it, no one's surprised when I say I don't like an episode. So it was a bit blah.
Blah.
Yeah, it was just a little bit beige. Do you know what I mean? So I sort it out.